so nice to be together again. Well, let's begin by just centering ourselves. And you know what that means, don't you? To be right in here. Now we're going to practice it through doing 3 ohms together. Om. 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 Centering ourselves helps us to remember that not only are we part of everything around us, that everything flows through us, but there's a part that our consciousness actually inhabits. So we call it the body, but we actually live in here. This is our habitat. We inhabit the body. It's our habitat. It's also made up of our habits of thoughts, our words, our actions. Our habits of thoughts reflect our mind, which is really where we live. So all these words have this thing in common here of repetition. Where you live is where you have a routine. Habits of thought, your routine of how you perceive, um, how you live in your words and in your thoughts and in your actions. So this past month, we've been working on commitment. And what are you committed to? Or are you, maybe you just feel like it's commitment, like you make a commitment to another person. Commitment isn't a promise. We have the word promise and we have the word commitment. Commitment has to do with inside where I guess you could say you're keeping the promise through a habit. When we commit, we are creating a habit. We're dedicated to a new habit, a better habit, a habit that takes over something else that wasn't very good for us. Commitment is a habit. So when we are committed to another person in terms of being in love, we're going to be creating habits with them. Habits of thought that you share together. How to raise a family, how to raise your dog, whatever it may be. But commitment is about practicing. Whereas loyalty, which we were using, has to do with more about not necessarily commitment, perhaps, but it could be a little tainted by I belong to something. I belong. Commitment doesn't have I belong. It has to do with, it's even deeper than a promise. It has to do with the actuality of working the promise out through repetition. I'm committed means I'm going to repeat this. I'm going to repeat my promise to myself, to the divine, to another person, to my kitty cat, whatever it may be. So commitment is a practice. And you want to ask yourself, what are you committed to? Which reveals what your habits really are. What is it you show up for? Do you have like things that you aspire to? And it makes you committed. It makes you drawn. It makes you want to do it again. You want to be there again. You want to be with those particular individuals again. That's commitment. It doesn't require loyalty. It doesn't require any sort of saying, I'm loyal to you. Ultimately, loyalty is inherent in commitment. But commitment isn't always inherent in loyalty, because sometimes we're loyal because we want something from it. Give it to me. I'm loyal because if I am, then I get this. Commitment is inside of you, and it's a practice. And through the practice, good things can come. But if you let go of the commitment, then that road closes down for you. So it's always important to ask yourself, what are you committed to? And in the times that we live in, I hope that your answer is that you're committed to peace. I hope that that's one of the things that you are committed to. And you might be thinking to yourself, yeah, but I don't really have a practice of peace. But you do. If you even come here and you don't do anything else, you have a practice right there. If you help yourself to stay more calm when you're having a disagreement, and you start to make a practice of that, of noticing how you can escalate, how you personally escalate, and you notice that, and you help yourself to like go, okay, I can feel it coming. And you commit to a breath or to a chant or to a mantra, and you teach yourself to do that, that becomes a habit. It's habitual. It's in your habitat, your body. Our bodies receive all of our thoughts. I've become even more aware of that, of course, since I hurt my back. It's something that I've become even more and more aware of than I ever did before. So the more that I'm at peace in my mind, my back seems to be more at peace also. So it's important, we know that we say, oh, my stomach's upset. Usually you can see where there's been some upset in the mind, and it's connected. Why wouldn't it be? The habit of thought affects the habitat of thought. So I say this so that we remember that everything affects everything else, because we're part of the air. Everybody's part of the air. I know these things sound ridiculous when I say them, it's like, well, we already know that. But if we really didn't just know it, we really teach ourselves to experience it, then we'll realize that when we're breathing in to do the oming, we're bringing it in, and now it's being mixed in with our thoughts. And in this way, our thoughts are about that om rolling through us and then moving it back out. And we're actualizing the sound of the entire universe. It's too big to really say, oh, yeah, I get that. To ponder on the nature of the universe is all we can do. We're never in these little bodies going to be able to understand unless we're completely and totally 100% enlightened. But we wouldn't be here together doing our give and take today. We wouldn't. The responsibility of a person who's completely enlightened is something beyond our comprehension. We're working on being able to be steady in our breathing. And that's doing something. Remember how we talk about breathing and our thoughts being one and the same thing. Remember, when you're angry, you cannot have the same breath as when you're experiencing peace. So as you feel the anger welling up inside of us, that's the time to be mindful. Mindful, you know how I'll interchange mindfulness with self-control. I love the word mindful, but I notice that sometimes people aren't sure what that means. And ultimately, it's self-control. But I love the word mindful. It's like, what's your mind full of? Is it full of peace? Is it full of the practice of peace? What is it full of? Mindfulness. What is your mind full of? Probably a lot of icky stuff in there too. So as we learn to have self-control, we have control over our breath, more control over our breath. And controlling over our breath helps us to have stronger bodies. It's not just enough to have a strong body. A strong body really deserves a strong mind, which is a kind mind. In order to have a kind mind, you must be committed to peace. You can do kind things and have kind thoughts, but a kind mind. Having trouble maintaining my voice today. Oops, there it goes. I might go into a little bit. I might go into a little bit of an alto. Oh dear. Yesterday it was like this all day long. You see what happens. um, Commitment. There it is. There's always this place where we can stop for a moment. I know it's inconvenient in conversations to stop and recenter yourself, but it's okay if you do. Just stop and say, "Hey, wait, let me rephrase that. Hmm. Wait, I heard what I said, but I want to change that because I'm feeling differently, actually." We can catch ourselves saying something in mid-sentence, and it's perfectly legitimate to change it because it means that you're changing, your habits are changing, and that's a really good thing. So today, I want to keep working on commitment, but also with the word Dharma. So for the month of April, Dharma is a word that I would suggest that you consider pondering on. You might be like, what in the world is Dharma? Is that like karma? Well, they're certainly related. Dharma is a very, very deep Eastern word, Eastern philosophy. Um, It has to do with, if you read it about it, it'll say righteousness. But we have a tendency on this side of the planet to use the word righteousness in kind of a negative way. We say, oh, such a self-righteous person. You know, we don't always use it as righteousness. So, righteousness, for our intents and purposes today, it has to do with learning to have goodness in our thoughts, our words, and our actions, and in our voice. To have goodness in all that we do. If you read about Dharma, you'll read that there are rules, so to speak, in order to be a more dharmic person. Be careful when you read those because they can it can be misleading to us on this side of the planet. For instance, in the practice of Dharma and traditionally speaking, there are rules about women. You see right away, it's like, what? So originally, way back when, there was this awareness that women were not necessarily safe around men. So what happened was women were separated from men. Originally, this was for the practice of protecting women from the thoughts of men. I think you know which thoughts I'm talking about. But what happened was, over time, there it became where it was about men insisting that women are separated and that they don't look at other men. This isn't about Dharma, this is about jealousy. Dharma has to do with understanding that in this group of people over here, there's so many negative thoughts that this group of people over here need to be protected from those thoughts. But even separating like that, the thoughts still move in because the thoughts move through the air. So, Dharma, you see, you have to look at it very carefully about what the rules really mean. And the rules aren't like rules like if you don't do this, somebody's going to come and punish you or take your credentials away. No, it just is to remind you that when you aren't dharmic, you have thoughts inside of you that could have very bad results, not only for yourself, but for other people. So when you live adharmically, when you see the letter A in front of virtuous qualities in Sanskrit words, it means no. So adharma means no dharma, means no righteousness. inner righteousness. Those thoughts can lead to selfishness, and selfishness can also lead to possessiveness, which can also lead to hoarding, to greed, to war. That's mine, and you can't have it, and I'm not sharing. And by the way, I'm going to take yours too. That's not dharmic. And we have to learn the difference between, well, we don't have to, but if we're doing inner work, it's important to know that there are laws and rules in a country, but we have to learn how to live by them individually. It's not easy all the time. So we have laws about cheating on your taxes. It's frowned upon, so much so that we have laws about it. But Dharma says you must abide by these rules or laws in order to still stay pure, because it's sort of like you make an agreement with everybody. We're like, but yeah, but I didn't make that law. I don't think it's fair. I don't think I should have to follow that law. Okay, you see where I'm going with this? We have to help ourselves to know that when we live in a group, we do have to find a commitment to the peace of that group. So if I cheat on my taxes, now it's also the law of karma. Because if I'm in agreement that we have these laws, an agreement outwardly, but inwardly I'm not in agreement with it, and I don't think it's fair, so I'm just going to go ahead and do whatever it is that I want to do, then what happens there is it goes out, it affects other people, because now the rules are going to get even stricter and the punishments are going to get even bigger because more people are getting caught. And it'll come back to me personally eventually in some way or form. Nobody's being punished here. The law of karma does not punish you. Mm-mm. It doesn't reward you, but it feels like that. But it isn't true. So when people have things that happen to them that are like such a good person, why did that happen? Why did that loss happen? Oh, maybe there was something bad in their karma. Not a very dharmic thought, because now you're looking for judgment about that person's character. Dharmically, it's if you see something happening to somebody who you feel has, whether they've been good or not, but you see something bad happening to them, it's not good to rejoice about that. And it's not good to judge them as, well, they deserve that because they're bad. Because the more that we do that, that also moves through us. That's in our habitat now. That we feel that people are just really bad and they deserve to be treated bad. See how that happens so quickly? They're bad, so now I have a right to treat them bad by thinking bad thoughts about them. And we think, well, nobody knows what I'm thinking. It doesn't matter. What does that matter? It moves through us out into the ethers. It affects the people that you're talking about and it returns back. So all racism is adharmic. So you see a person of a different race and you automatically have this, oh, there's one of those people. That goes out there. It affects them. And it returns back to you. So what does that mean when it returns back to you? It means it's part of your habitat. You're living with it, which means it's part of you. It infects you. It can be like it can be like an illness where you have caught something. And now it's in you and it's affecting you. It affects how you think. It perpetuates itself. It's a really hard thing, but once we start to see that Dharma is about being good, being good makes you always right. But if you only want to be right, it can deteriorate into self-righteousness, and you're not good. So we don't want to be running around saying, I'm dharmic. I'm living dharmically and I'm right. I'm right. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Dharma is an adherence to cosmic law. cosmic law. It is. Cosmic law is to do no harm. This is a very different way to look at life, to practice peace, to practice harmlessness. Because we can think of harmlessness as weak and wimpy, but it is not. We think of peace as weak and wimpy. It is not. It takes great courage, great inner strength to be peaceful, to not cause harm, to be aware of your thoughts so much. And I say aware of it because it doesn't mean you're like, okay, am I doing good or bad? What's going on? That kind of fussing over, looking in your mind, you don't need to trouble yourself with that. It's about a practice, practicing inner peace, checking in with yourself. Are these the thoughts I really want to live with? Is this what I want my habitat to be made of? Do I feel good in here? Does this feel like home? Does it feel like I enjoy being by myself for a few moments? Because it feels like home, it feels good. Or is it, I don't like to be alone at all. No, I want lots of noise going on around me. I want all these things happening. No, I don't like it. I don't like it. Where are all the people I need to talk and have be seen? That home could be, could be, could be that that's something that you think that you like because you're afraid to be quiet. Quiet is a good thing. When you sleep deeply, you're very quiet. I'm not talking about snoring. Deep, deep rest purifies the mind of noise. When we have a restless sleep, the noise that was going on in the sleep is affecting us, and it will affect your next day. And you will not feel rested. You will not feel the ability to feel deeper peace. You won't connect with peace. You could feel irritated, irritable. You could just feel, I didn't sleep last night. You see how that feeling goes through us? You recognize it. I know you recognize it. We all have had our adventures with restless sleep, which is the result of a restless mind. So we want rest, but we don't want to meditate because, I don't know, because we're addicted to we think fast mind, like it's powerful. No, it's too fast. It's driving too fast on the freeway. Like you're going 110, but you're only capable of safely driving at maybe 30 or 40, maybe because you're not that good of a driver. So we have to like help ourselves to understand a fast mind does not mean that you have the most intelligence. It's the mind that has control established by you, where you can feel Dharma. You can feel these thoughts that are dharmic. These thoughts make me stronger. It makes me be able to bear out what other people are saying about me without getting invested in it. So persons who are on the side of racism, where racism gets thrown at them all the time, they have to deal with that. It affects them. Who would think it doesn't? It can be really difficult. And the people in your family are affected by it, and you see that, and that affects you. And now you have to wear that because it's in you. And the people who are throwing this at you, they have no idea because they're not being introspective and asking themselves, what am I doing when I throw these thoughts at these people? not asking themselves, what am I doing? What causes, how's this affecting them? But the minute that we do, we start to live in Dharma and we start to want to change. And we don't want to hurt that person. We don't want to hurt their family and their loved ones, their friends, their communities. We don't want to do that. So we begin to change ourselves. And as we do that, all of a sudden, there's a whole bunch of anger that will leave us. There'll be a whole bunch of feelings of shaming and blaming. The habit of it will be revealed to us, and we won't live in it so much. We're not looking for somebody to shame, somebody to blame, so that we feel bigger and more powerful. We start to realize that's nonsense. And we start to realize it's ridiculous, and we don't want to be ridiculous, much less hateful, full of hate. Shaming and blaming, when it becomes chronic, has hate involved in it. Hateful means full of hate. In a single moment, if I have a hateful thought and it's so big that it boom flies out of my mouth, it flies out and hurts someone in that moment is full of hate. And it will cause harm. Absolutely. So the practice of Dharma is the practice of introspection, of asking yourself, what am I thinking right now? When I see a person of a different race, what's the first thought that comes into my mind? What is the second and the third thought that comes into my mind? And you might be aware that, oh, I didn't even know that was there. But once you have that awareness, instead of shaming and blaming yourself, be committed to upgrading it, to sending them love. What you can do is, if you observe yourself and you think, oh gosh, I noticed that this first thought that I have is less than positive. What you can do is be aware that you can follow it up with sending peace to that person. Because when you have that awareness, and then you decide to be committed to that awareness, you can send them the counterbalance of your last thought. That creates balance. That'll take the hate, if you will, out of that thought. It'll keep that person safe. It'll keep that person safe. Then they get a little bit of a better chance to be able to do what they do, instead of always having to dig all of this stuff out of them that gets thrown on them. All bigotry, all racism, all things where we categorize people into one group and decide that they're all bad. No good will come from that. Nobody rises up because they decide this group is so bad. Nobody rises up and becomes angelic. It just doesn't happen. It's just now there's more to overcome. So you see, Dharma is a lot to ponder on. So Dharma is cosmic law, which is karmic law. What you put out affects and returns, and it just does that again and again and again. So it also means to follow the laws of wherever you're born. And I'm really talking more about like, don't steal, don't kill, things like this. There's no reason for us to live in a space where we feel like we have to lie all the time. We have to learn to not be afraid of the truth, whatever the truth is. And ultimately, truth is about love. How can that be? Because, it's a power, it's a force. It isn't an emotion. We experience it emotionally, but it is a power. when you love your children enough to teach them to have the tools on how to be peacemakers, you have done something that's amazing, really amazing. When you love somebody else's child, you're a teacher or you're a counselor or whatever it is that you are, and you're around them and you love them enough to set an example for them, you're really doing something magnificent. And you don't even have to think about that. You know, and children are just very young adults. So the same thing goes for when you're around adults. You want to also be unafraid to be committed to love, to be big hearted. That doesn't mean you give everything away. Being big hearted is sometimes it means just listening to what the other person is saying. Being a good listener is a really good thing to do for another person. You get to hear a lot of stories, let me tell you. So we want to practice Dharma. And the saboteur for Dharma, there can be lots and lots of saboteurs. But the one for this month, I chose blind ambition. And the reason is, so sorry about my voice. And the reason that I chose blind ambition is because am too much ambition is like too much chili pepper. It could ruin the whole recipe of things. But in spirituality, the practice of spirituality, ambition is not required. Goal setting is not required. I'm going to meditate for 10 minutes every single day, and then I'm going to have peace. And then I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Spirituality isn't about being ambitious or goal setting. No. It's about practice. It's about becoming. Becoming doesn't require ambition. It requires another A word, awareness. Awareness of what it feels like to be peaceful. Awareness of the feeling of peace will help us to practice peace. And that is the art of becoming a peacemaker. You must be strong-hearted. You must have a strong mind. You must have a single-mindedness to become a peacemaker, which is why we have this many. We have lots of people who say, well, we had some peace talks, but that didn't work, so you know what to do now. Peacemakers. It's not even really a word we have in conversation. It's a real word, but we don't use it. Oh, you know those peacemakers over there? Yeah, they're doing such a good job. I see that they have an office building now. Yeah, peacemakers are us. No, but we could, because it takes a lot of strength, not ambition, becoming. It's about becoming. And as you become, people feel it from you. They feel your vibration. They know you're strong. They can feel it. They can feel that. And that helps them to be enticed that peace is about strength. It's not about surrendering and being wimpy. Spiritually surrendering is a whole nother thing. But becoming. So, blind ambition means we're just charging. We're just charging forward. We're just like going and we're not even really seeing where we're going. We don't even know what it is we want. All we know is that everybody else is charging, so we better charge too, or we're going to get left behind. Not a good idea. Not a good idea. We want to learn to go deeper, to be committed to the word becoming. Notice I didn't say becoming spiritual. We already are spiritual. We're just in denial of it. That's all. We're just in plain old denial. No, no, I wouldn't really say I'm a spiritual person. No. Doesn't matter if you say it or not. You actually are. That's why we have things called cosmic laws. It means that we live in a universe, And we don't think about other beings. The only times we think about other beings is we think about aliens, who usually are either green or made out of metal or something. And they're usually here to hurt us in some way. I don't know. We don't think about the universe being filled with living minds, with beings, because then we have to put a picture on them. They might look like dinosaurs or something. But because that's all we know. That's all we know. But what I'm talking about is to go beyond what you know, to go from the known to the unknown. And how do we do that? Through intuition, of course. It's the one and only way to learn about cosmic law. You could read all kinds of things that people write about it, their interpretations of how they experience it, what it is, da da da. And that's all really helpful. What I'm telling you, I hope it's helpful in some way. But ultimately, cosmic law is intuited. You intuit what good really means. You intuit what peace really means. You intuit what divine love really means. And as you intuit it, it's part of you because it's flowing through you. It comes to you. When I say it comes to you, it doesn't come like this in here. Intuition comes from here and goes to here. When you're intuiting cosmic laws or you're intuiting spirituality, it's already inherent. It comes from here and affects here. From here affects here and it moves out. So you could read something and you read this really wonderful quote, maybe from Swami Vivekananda, and you feel incredibly inspired. Suddenly you're like filled with inspiration. It wasn't like he directly gave it to you, but you sensed what he became through his practice, because he too is a human being. And we intuit the same. Spirituality inspires. It inspires us to expand our consciousness and think more deeply, more profoundly than the way that we have been taught. No matter who taught you, good or bad. To intuit goodness comes inside. You see it in other people, and you see the lack of goodness too. But ultimately, you intuit what it means. You sense it, you experience it, and it gets translated through your habits, your habitat, out into the world. And it's something that you begin to realize that you have to practice every day. But you don't have to. But if you enjoy the feeling, it requires practice, which is awareness. Everything comes back to awareness. It's always awareness first. Actually, it's awareness second. The first thing is intuition. We were in the tarot class, we were talking about intuition, and I had looked up where the word intuition is only used 9 times out of every 1 million words. 9 times out of 1 million words. That's where we are on the intuition scale, folks. There's a lot of, I know, I know, I know. Huh, really? What is it that we know? Intuition is very deep, it's profound, and it's in every human being. But for some reason or another, we live in a time where intuition is relegated to people who read tarot cards. Which I'm at peace with that, and you see intuition in that. But no, it's in every human being. And it's you experience intuition every single time you go, oh, hmm, oh, I know what you mean. Is it like da 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 da? When you speak in metaphors, that's intuition. The language we have in common is metaphors. When you interpret dreams, interpret them through metaphors. It's a common language that's all throughout the whole world. Tarot cards are a common language. You could read them in any language and come to the same kind of understanding, any culture. We think, well, no, wouldn't it be different in another culture? No, no. The basics of being human are the same. We express them differently. You wear blue, you wear red, you wear green, you wear yellow. It's still the same. You have this color skin, you have that color skin, you have that kind of feeling about God, you have that kind of feeling about God. We're still human beings, right? Sounds like it's pretty basic, but apparently it's not because we haven't learned that yet. What we all have in common, and what we all have in common is intuition. We all are intuitive beings, but intuition requires quiet, non thinking. Again, people say, what does that mean? And then I get all kinds of, when we talk about it, people be analyzing what I just said. I'm like, okay, we're way off intuition now. The more you analyze intuition, you can't experience it. Of course, we analyze. Of course. That's very important. But intuition comes first. So, first, you get an idea. And then from that idea, then it goes to the powers of analysis. You get an idea on how to make things better in your relationship. And you put it out there, and then you say, oh, but that didn't work. No, it means you didn't get the results that you wanted, perhaps. But it doesn't mean you weren't inspired properly. Intuition keeps us safe from all kinds of interesting thoughts because intuitively we do know what's good for us. To monitor yourself on what's good and what's not good comes from your intuition. You don't have to have all these rules and regulations, but ultimately you'll see rules and regulations for yourself because you know if you cross them, you won't feel good. If you let yourself be angry too much, you'll start to feel it in your mind and in your body. And intuitively, you see, you recognize that. And then you can decide. You can analyze it. You can make a decision. You can commit to do better. But everything that's good about us in terms of spirituality, you sense intuitively. No matter how many books you read, no matter how many churches you attend, all those things are good. But never lose your intuitive sense abilities. Intuitive sense abilities. Never lose them. Always let yourself ponder. Say you go to a church today And they say, do this, do this, do this, do this. And here are the stories that go with it. Go home and let yourself intuit it. What feels good to you? What feels good to you? What makes you feel like this inspires me to make myself a stronger and kinder person? Because as you intuit what you get from that and what makes you stronger and kinder, that's what spirituality is all about. You can leave the rest wherever. You don't have to go, well, yeah, but I didn't like all of that. Okay. You didn't like all that. But don't ponder on that too long because then you're going to be thinking about, I didn't like this, I didn't like this. And all that goodness that you intuited won't be there. Because your mind is going to be on everything that you didn't like. Right. So we want to help ourselves to not do that. So through commitment, awareness, intuition, Dharma, I could go on and on with all kinds of words to give us. But see the relationship in these words. Feel the relationship, right, Romeo? Feel the relationship that's there so that you can become more at ease. You can become stronger. You can come up with better ideas for your home, for your family, for your business, for the people that you work with. That if you work in a big corporation or whatever it is, you help yourself to not reduce yourself to blind ambition. I'll just do whatever I can to get to the top. And then you're at top, and who do we have at the top? Oh dear, we don't want to talk about that. We don't want to talk about that. We can absolutely change the world by changing ourselves. But there isn't one human being who's going to change it into the perfect place. There have been masters of grace who have walked on this planet from the beginning of time, and most of them we don't even know their names. I don't know what would happen if they didn't keep coming, but they do. And they don't have blind ambition. They don't need to be remembered. But they plant little seeds in those who can feel it intuitively. And they say, be good, see good, do good. I learned that from my teacher in India. So basic, so expansive, so easy, but pretty dang difficult all at the same time. So remember, spirituality is entwined with mindfulness. And on this side of the world, we can actually call it also self-control, even though you don't like that word, self-control. Control yourself. I always like it when people say, I don't like it, but you know what I mean? Patience, it's the only virtue that we shout at one another. You know, be patient. And we shout at children. Oh, Lordy. I don't know what you're teaching there, but it isn't patience. Patience is inner strength. It's the ability to bear something out without losing yourself, because it actually is the antidote to anger. The practice of patience is dharmic. It's dharmic. It has cosmic law behind it. When you have that much self-control over negative thoughts, you produce good in the world. That's karma. That's cosmic law. I see it's very different than you'll get your karma. I don't know. Karma is much deeper, much more profound than that. Good Lord. I've taught myself to not say I don't have a big voice. I say, oh, I don't have a big voice. My whole life I've had this thing with my voice. I can't shout. If I shout, I really lose my voice. So, oh dear. So now I just say, my voice wants to be quiet. I'm all right with that. Sorry about it though, because it is kind of grovelly today. So, okay, practice. How do you practice? How do you practice all these things? Mindfulness. So, what we're going to do is we're going to sit for 60 seconds. Do you have a 60-second? We're going to sit for 60 seconds together because it's important, I think, for you to know how long 60 seconds is. It could feel like it's forever. You're going to feel yourself going, is it 60 seconds yet? And that's okay. I want you to feel perfectly at peace if you feel that way. So, but in this 60 seconds, if you like, help yourself to breathe in and to breathe out without trying to control it. Just be aware of your breathing. And if you want, you can say a mantra or a chant if you like, whatever you like to do. There isn't any rules here about mindfulness practice. There isn't. There's just techniques, no rules. So make sure that your back is straight. That is a requirement, though, because you want everything to be in alignment. I like to put my hands, I make this little triangle with my thumbs, and I put my hands in my lap. You could do whatever you like. I just show you so that you know there's techniques that you can um, try for yourself. There's different ways to do this. There isn't just one way. So in just a few seconds, okay, everybody ready? So very kindly be aware that we are beginning right now. Yeah. Oh, 60 seconds is up. Did you experience it fast or slow? For me, it was very fast. I went, whoa, really? But it might not have been at another time in today. And it doesn't matter if it was fast or slow. I just want you to be aware of it. I just want you to be aware of 60 seconds and know that you have 60 seconds all day long to practice mindfulness. 60 seconds. Because you think, oh, I need to meditate for an hour. Can't hold our mind steady for 60 seconds. Why are you going for 60 minutes? It's not going to happen. What happens when people start to practice and they sit for 60 minutes, immediately, it's a waste of time. Truly, you would be better off, doing volunteer work. Go to a food bank, stand there and give food to other people. Oh my gosh, it'll clear your mind. It'll totally clear your mind. So, with meditation, to practice being quiet is to practice gaining inner strength. It's practicing clearing your mind of all of the, the dust and the debris, all of the all of the negativity. Practicing mindfulness throughout the day is one of the best habits you could establish for yourself. I like to tell people you could get into your car and you can just turn the key on and go. Or you can sit there and you decide how long a minute is, just 1 minute, and then go. And then when you arrive at your destination, before you get out and run into the building, practice sitting in your car for 60 seconds. Or if there's traffic on the freeway, instead of just going, oh my God, beating your head on the headrest, if you're stopped, but you could practice your hands are on the wheel, your eyes are straight ahead, you're aware of what's going on around you, you're fully in your body. And you're practicing peace. Some of you have come to meditation groups when I was on 2nd Street. It was on the alley. Here we are on 2nd Street, and my office faced the alley there. On the other side of the alley were 2 bars. So meditations would come, we'd start at 7 in the evening. By then the bars are active and there'd be people in the alley. Sometimes there would be some shouting. During the day, there were people out there shouting. And I did have some people say to me that they didn't feel like that was a proper place to teach meditation, to experience meditation. That was the place I had. That was the place that was given to me to offer to other people. So I went with it. If you can learn to meditate in a place like that, you don't need the quietness of another temple. But when you are in a temple, you'll be able to go way, way, way deep because you've practiced where there's 2 bars right across the street. So it was still a sanctuary because we dared to do that, to sit quietly with one another while things were going on in the alley. And sometimes people would be screaming at each other. And sometimes there would be cigarette smoke that flowed through. There was all kinds of interesting things that happened. And I understand why people would say that's not ideal. But on the other hand, like I said, if you can do it there, you can do it anywhere. If you can calm yourself in traffic, you can do that anywhere. Mhm. You can do it anywhere. So for this next month, if you like, we can all focus on these words, but particularly with Dharma. Remember that Dharma is this awareness of what is good action, good thoughts, good words, good action. Really practice it, be through awareness. The saboteur of that can be blind ambition because spirituality does not require ambition. It requires awareness and becoming. I'm very grateful that you were here today and that we shared the whole hour, but I'm really grateful that we were able to share our 60 minutes, 60 seconds, pardon me. And I always like to end with everything that we've accumulated today, all the good energy that all of us together have accumulated, to offer it out to help to alleviate the suffering of all sentient beings. May all the beings and all the worlds be happy. Till next month. Peace be with you.